Okay, good morning. Before we begin our inquiry, I will ask our father, who is also a member of parliament, a Catholic priest, is also a member of parliament and member for Central Bougainville, to say a word of prayer. And then our deputy chairman will make some introduction, and I'll do our opening remarks, and we can begin the session. Thank you. Father, please.
Let's sit down where we are, and then we will start. Say our prayer before we start off our session. Let's pray. God, our Father, we pray in your name, your Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. We are praying that through your power and Spirit will guide us in this session. Give us a spirit that we need in order to have a media in Papua New Guinea, a good one for us, for the country, especially, particularly through the work of media and communication. Is a form that we didn't create in ourselves, but you have created in the beginning of all creations. You speak, and the life has come into being through your words. Make these words of communication be a tool for Papua New Guinea, especially to bring peace and harmony, bring love, care for one another, and especially for the leadership that we have in the country, continue through the members and also to those who have in the field of communication and media in Papua New Guinea, continue to bring peace and harmony through communication. We thank you for the team that is here before us and the media community that is here with us. Give us this guidance throughout this day as we start off this interaction today, this morning. Guide us along with your Spirit. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Okay, thank you and morning everyone. I'd like to take this time on behalf of the committee to warmly welcome you all this morning to the parliamentary inquiry into the role and impact of media in Papua New Guinea. In this team we have the chairman himself, Honorable Mas Narawek, Wawari MP, myself as the deputy chairman, member for Wau Bololo, Correction Bololo, Ricky Morris, MP for Alotau, Father Simon, Central Bougainville, Alexander Ome, member for Sumkar, Sasindra Mutaval, Governor for West New Britain, and finally Ermas Tobaining Jr., member for Kokopo. Welcome all. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I also would like to make some opening remarks before we proceed with the hearings. Firstly, I would like to stress that this hearing or inquiry is not something to judge anyone, not something to blame anyone. This hearings is to especially hear from you guys who are involved in the media industry on your role, on the terms of reference we have specified in the media. You must also understand that the parliamentary committee is an extension of the parliament. We have three arms of the government. One is the judiciary, two is the legislative, and three is the executive. So in terms of legislative, you have the parliament, And the parliamentary committee is the extension of the parliament. So we don't report to the judiciary, we don't report to the executive, we only report to the people of Papua New Guinea, which is the parliament. So we are representing the citizens of this country as a committee. So our inquiry will only go into existing policy and legislation and your current work in the media industry. We will not talk. We will not want to hear about your plans. We want to hear about what you are currently doing. What you are currently doing with regards to the terms of reference that we are sent. There will be some missing gaps in legislations and policy, but we don't want to know what you plan to do about that. We want to know what you are currently doing. So when you bring forward your responses or submissions, we want to know what you're currently doing in terms of the policy, the regime of the media in this country, media industry in this country. Media industry, you played a very important role. As in many democracies, they consider media as a fourth arm of the government, or fourth estate. That's the significant role you play in any democracy, including Papua New Guinea. Through your media, you can control government policies, you can control government politics, and you can point out the defects of any legislations, any policies, or you can even promote the country through media. So we respect you, and we see you as a fourth important arm of the extension arm of the people of Papua New Guinea, which is the media. So please be welcome. Give what you questions. If you can answer in short. Otherwise, we also welcome written expression too, written submissions to this committee. Once again, this for the committee members and also for those who will be interviewed, the witness, we would ask questions related to current legislation and policy. If any policy and legislation that is in draft format, or this, we don't want to hear about it. We want to hear about what current policies, the existing policies that you have, and what you are doing in terms of the term of reference that we have. I think that is all, and we can begin the hearings. Thank you. Sorry, there are a couple of announcements I would like to make. We put the submissions date as 17th of this month, which is last Friday, but I want to announce that the submission extends until end of July. So you have until end of July to make your submissions. That's one announcement. And also, we also want to announce also that we will also do an inquiry to the business community in terms of media marketing. Marketing is a form of communication. So last day of the inquiry, we will also bring a witness in the industry in terms of marketing in a business sense, and we will also inquire into that. Thank you. I think our secretary, I think from your guidance, our first, from the schedule, the first witness is Secretary for Department of Information and Communication Technology, Mr. Stephen Matainaho. Mr. Matainaho, you can take the seat, and if you have your colleague who wants to support you also in this inquiry, they can also take the seat with you, and we can ask the questions. Good morning, team from Department of ICT and Communication Secretary, and I believe 2 Deputy Secretaries. Thank you for your attendance. Firstly, I would like to give opportunity if you have any submissions, written submissions or verbal report, if you would like to present in terms of the terms of reference that we submit, you can. If you have already submitted, you can mention that you already submitted, and I would really, we would really appreciate if you can also give your verbal submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and Deputy Chair and committee members. Thank you for having us for this committee, important committee. We would request that we can provide a verbal statement, and then we can also a bit later on submit a written statement on the work we're doing.
Thank you.
So, Chair, based on your introductory remarks, I'd just like to highlight that, first of all, that the Department of ICT has a broad remit across ICT, as you will be aware. We would like to request, just for context for what we do, that we're able to just highlight that. It may not be directly related to media, but we just want to share that, and then before we talk about the media work we're doing. On that note, we are a policy department, and we think it would be right to also report on the policy work we're doing. I want to highlight that the department has no legal mandate around media. So if we are requested to ask on work we are implementing on media, this is the very challenge we are facing, that we need a policy framework around it before we can have remit around it. So I just want to explain that in the outset, but we would be really happy to highlight what we're doing in terms of the policy work. If that would be in order, we can also proceed in that manner.
Thank you, Secretary. But what you're doing, the inquiry is basically to point out that there's a need for what you're doing. So if there's no such thing in place, you just have to say that there's no such thing in place. And so I want to guide the inquiry in such a way that we are extension of the Parliament. So we only inquire into matters that has been passed by the Parliament and currently in use. If such is not in place, you just have to state that clearly that this is not in place. So we don't need to create anxiety and preempt what you will be doing, because it has no legal mandate. It is not gazetted. It has not come before us in the Parliament, and it is not being used by you or any other existing organization. So there is no need to talk about what you're trying to do. We want to know that if there's no such thing, then you admit that there is no such thing in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, let me initially provide a background on our current legal mandate. Under the Department of ICT is established under Cabinet decision under the Public Service Management Act. Under the Ministry for ICT, we have about 3 key legislations that are in place and active. That is the National ICT Act of 2009, which focuses more on the licensing regime around communications and broadcasting, and spectrum management as well. And then we have the Digital Government Act of 2022. I should highlight in the context of this session that we have a Printers and Newspaper Act of 1956. So this, while is outdated, is what I understand is currently under review under the CLRC reviewing this legislation. And based on this outdated legislation, this is where our role has been under the instruction of our minister to look at that. And this work started about 2 years ago, and we started looking on how to review that legislation. Now that legislation is outdated. It calls for a separate entity in enforcing. It was in the nature of that legislation, I should use the word, it was more colonial structured, where it's actually had very powerful oversight on the media, and particularly the newspapers and printers, such that an authority could come in and remove print machinery and shut down print and media office. So that's the magnitude of that legislation, which is currently outdated and not enforced. I should highlight that on the issues, Chairman and members, we undertook a consultation last year in February with mainstream media. Consultation, the main focus on that was to gauge on how government could come in through policy intervention, and the first consultation was with mainstream stakeholders, newspapers, radio, and some of the online content creators. Our first consultation, the outcome of it was highlighted that majority were against any government intervention, legislative intervention, and even policy intervention. And there was a lot of talk on why government should introduce any licensing regime to professionals. Following that initial consultation, we did a nationwide survey, and that nationwide survey, we will submit that at a later date. We covered 5 regions across the country, and we decided to talk to the people and other stakeholders. The outcome of that was in contrast to what mainstream media highlighted. The statistics showed that there was a lack of distrust in media. There was a lack of trust in media, and even lack of trust more so with social media when it comes to news and information. 90% of the segment in which we surveyed we received close to 2,000 respondents through online, through newspaper, and through radio, and through in-person data collection. 90% highlighted that there was a lack of trust in media when it came to collecting or reading news. The segment were also polarized in terms of who they should trust, and there was also polarized views, meaning a big group were for government intervention and a big group were against government intervention. So these are some of the survey outcomes that we've published, and we're happy to share those that national survey that we took, and it will really highlight issues and perceptions around what the public view. We also have the consultation report from the first round of consultation we did mainly with the mainstream media. So I think on the issues, this is what we've ascertained. I maybe should not cover what I've prepared here because it's not directly on the media area, but I'd just like to highlight that that's the work we've done. We have which resulted in a national media development policy, and we have currently, just on that, we currently have that before the SLOSH Ministerial Committee. So it's been in the SLOSH vetting process for the last maybe 3-4 months. And the anticipation was that it will inform any possible legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. So you only have one, in terms of media, you mentioned that you only have one legislation.
That's correct. That's the Printers and Newspaper Act of 1956.
So as a policy maker, under your jurisdiction, do you have any other policy apart from that in terms of media? Any legislations that...
Yes. We do have the National Broadcasting Act of 1973, and that there were some amendments to it, but that's basically establishing the NBC as a broadcasting arm. But it doesn't cover any regulatory framework around the media. It only provides mandates for establishment of standards within NBC.
Okay, so what are you currently... So that means you're telling me that you have no legislation or policy to regulate misinformation and disinformation. Is that correct?
That's correct. Our current view is that media is under a self-regulatory framework. We have, of course, the Media Council can speak more on that. But the policy directive that coming from the ministry is that we need to have some framework around that. But more so, one of the findings also in the survey was that, and from the consultation, was there is need more to look at the training and capacity building, because there is no clear pathway in the professional media space, and that from the consultation was deemed to be more important to mitigating misinformation and disinformation.
Thank you. That's an interesting point you brought up in terms of journalism standards. So what do you think about the current journalism standard among the journalists in this industry?
Well, I'll draw from the survey. The survey highlighted a very low perception and low standard on the profession itself. So the message that we took as a government was that government's not doing enough to provide a clear pathway, to provide training incentives, and to provide equipment to the universities and so forth. So one of the policy recommendations was that we need to put some funds into initiating a review on the existing curriculum and program at the universities and provide a clear pathway, similar to what we have like maybe in law, where there's a law society and then you register and accredit the profession, and then there should be also mechanisms to protect our media professionals. Right now, there's no legal mechanisms. The survey also highlighted that media professionals are also at high risk because of the nature of their jobs, and there's a bit of a fear factor there as well.
Thank you. I just have one question here regarding is it the Print Act, Print Newspaper Act or something, Print Missionary Act, 1956. Like all the other acts in Papua New Guinea, outdated, colonial times. The question is simply about the challenges, the general challenges that the media industry in PNG faces. Are there any main challenges that this kind of outdated act have the impact on the industry, the media industry in Papua New Guinea? Any challenges at all, like in general? Like we know that the world is moving forward with technology. AI is coming up, and Facebook, TikTok, all those stuff are coming up. I mean, existing now. It's just that the Act is 1956, and we are in 2024. So I'm just asking if we have any challenges that the industry faces in Papua New Guinea.
I think what the findings that we got from both the consultation and survey was really on the quality of media as a whole, and the pathways that need to be provided. We initially suggested for a licensing regime that was not taken well by the media professions. So we've shifted to a proposal where we need government, as a government, we should provide incentives to improving the quality of the profession, whether it be journalism or whether it be in the pre-production areas of media. One of the biggest risks right now is on AI. So we've highlighted also that like much of the publication, and I flagged this to the Media Council on a number of occasions, now articles are being generated through AI, and it really comes down to, it's not so much on the technology, it's on the ethical, it's back to the profession and the ethical values and standards around which we place on the profession. If there is an ethical, and it's currently self-regulatory, if the professionals enforce within themselves to hold high standards, they will not I should use the word abuse, or they will, have their own, their writing standards. There's a lot of AI tools now that can do, almost anything. The view of most of the AI community is that it's just to augment your professional function. It's not to duplicate the work. And this is where the ethical values of the profession should step in to enforce that technology is just there not to duplicate your work or do your work, but it's just to support in the role. So we've noticed multiple cases of AI being used to generate articles across newspapers, and even I saw one yesterday. So you can actually plug it back into the AI, and it can detect that it was AI generated.
Thank you. Are there any plans on preventing those from happening, like any future applications that can pick up articles that are generated from AI? Because I believe some parts of the world are doing that, especially in universities where you have students doing essays just in 5 minutes. So, these are the kind of stuff that we should be looking out in the media industry, especially in Papua New Guinea, where we have outdated acts and laws and all that. So, I believe it's a challenge for you guys. But are there any? Well, sorry, Chairman, we don't want to talk about future stuff, but I'm just asking if there's any way where we can stop this from happening.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. That's a very good and fair question. I think that there's a two-pronged strategy. The first one is, of course, that we need to have detection mechanisms in place, and you need an enforcement body, and this is where the policy is proposing that we need some kind of body to look at that. Whether it be already the existing media council or whether it be another body, there has to be someone that does it, and that function, the argument is that it has to be independent from government. Two is, of course, that we need to instill proper values in our profession. So it starts from the beginning when we train them. So there needs to be, maybe government also needs to put more investment in the training and the pathway.
Secretary, do you think media should be, currently the media is regulated in this country?
I think no, we are under a self-regulatory regime, which means that the professionals are to uphold standards and enforce, comply, themselves. So that's a self-regulatory. There are different regulatory models. Self-regulatory is where you regulate yourself.
Do you think they should be regulated?
I think that I don't think there should be. We need to be a bit careful when we tread on that, because the Constitution also highlights on the freedom of expression. So there needs to be a fine balance if we are to regulate. The Constitution protects the rights of the citizen. We must not take that away from the citizen, but at the same time, we need to find a balance where we still hold media accountable.
So why are you working on a media development policy when you believe that it should not be regulated?
So the name of the policy is media development. So our focus is on developing the sector, because we are development orientated. We see the media as a sector. Currently, without the policy, when someone university asks for funding and say, can government fund this? We don't have a policy to justify in the budget to say, we'll fund this program, we'll fund this equipment. So it's not a media regulatory policy, it's a media development. So our focus now in the fourth draft of the policy is more on two things. One is creating a quality pathway for the media sector and the training. And the other one, we are focusing more on the state, on public-owned media, because we see that from within, we can improve our own media entities. That's NBC, FM 100, MTV, and that's about, and of course our PR offices within the departments.
We used to have a government survey. What happened to it and where is it now?
Chairman, I cannot speak. That was before my time. I understand that there was insufficient funding to continue it within the department. What's left of within that in the department is the information services division, which we still maintain that. within the department.
So how is the government publishing policies and legislation? What channel is it using, the government? Not the private, not using the private like news, but what channel is the government using to push out information into the public?
So currently, Chair, it's a decentralized function across all departments. What position that the department we've taken under the Digital Government Act on social media platforms is that, and we have a provision, I think it's section 42 of the Act, that we are to just provide standards around which information is disseminated. So we have direct relations, dialoguing and relationship with Meta, and we don't go to accounts of personal or public, but we have direct role on taking down any public body social media account that does not fit a certain standard. So we've pulled back on directly disseminating. We do that at a small scale, but we focus more on standardizing how information is disseminated on social media. And our remit is just on social media.
Okay, Secretary, if a department, or say the Prime Minister's office, issue a statement, and someone gets the statement and edit it of some sort, who goes and correct that misinformation or disinformation in this? Your department or other departments or agencies responsible for correcting any misleading statement from the office of the Prime Minister or any other departments?
Our view is that if the information relates to, for example, the economy, our officers call the Department of Treasury and we request them to quickly correct that information. Again, we see it as a decentralized function, so each agency must be responsible for mitigating, or should I say, everyone is responsible for mitigating misinformation and disinformation across government. We do. So we have a social media management desk where we monitor what we're calling national digital risk. So we just look at, for example, if there are high-level issues that we see that's hindering policy development, anything of current public discourse relating specifically to policy, not politics but policy. We have a role where we flag it down. We have a couple of social media tools we're using. We flag it down and we indicate it's trending, and we refer the matter either to if we see it's going criminal in matter, we forward it to the police, and or we forward it to the responsible agency to respond to it. So that's our current role on operational matter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and Secretary. Just a couple of questions. Secretary, from recent reports, PNG's ranking in terms of the media freedom ranking from last year, we have dropped significantly from the 59th to the 91st position. Does it concern you, and are there plans to have a look at why we have dropped over this ranking?
Thank you very much. I've seen that in passing. I've not read the details as to why we have dropped, and whether it's related to, could be related to any events that have taken place or any government perceived interventions. But we will need to see a bit on the criteria why. Rankings, I personally don't trust a lot of the global rankings.
Well, as a regulatory agency and being responsible, this is a ranking for the country. So it should concern you to investigate and find out why we have dropped, and also included in your reports. The second question I wanted to ask is, would you support an idea or a proposal for the journalist profession to associate in terms of having an association that can also have a look at the standards and look into the welfare and, of the journalist profession? Would you support that idea?
Thank you. That is one of the policy positions that's stated in the draft policy, that and we want to strengthen the role of existing regimes. We have the Media Council there. We want to strengthen their role, but we don't, as a government, we're not sure how to do it because they need to be independent. So this is the very challenge around it, that we're asking to come in, but there's also a pushback saying that don't come in. So what becomes of government's role now in this? So I think we're keen to push our policy. We're keen to see that we strengthen any entities that will build capacity for the media, whether direct or indirect. I think government still has a role in that, and our policy, we hope, will do that very soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Father Central Bougainville, do you have any questions to us?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask in the area of what would be your advice, your advice to the media community, media groups that in the country that gives media to the public, to Papua New Guinea. What's your advice? What are your fears, so that they can fairly and freely responsible to in releasing media information to the public.
Thank you, Father. I think in the first instance, I would say that we need to strengthen our media profession and industry. We need to protect our media profession. We are struggling to find a legal mechanism around which we can do that, while at the same time protecting the freedom of expression. And while on that note, it's important that as a democracy, we instill what's in the Constitution, and that's to protect the freedom of expression. Mind you that it's a qualifiable right. So this is where we come in to say, okay, how do we qualify that right? So we are working on a very thin rope to try to work out a solution and work out how we can intervene as a department to support that profession without being seen to be interfering with the media. So, but I would have to just say, in concluding on your question, that we need to instill the values within the profession. And the question is, how do we go about doing that? Do we do it through a holistic approach in education and training? Do we do it through an enforcement mechanism of the profession or a licensing regime? These are the policy questions. And these are some of the proposed, we've proposed some of these ways forward where we think it's a good balance in the draft policy.
Secretary, final one for me. Central government, you mentioned you are a policy department, so if I'm unfair on you, but since that in terms of policy, do you think the government, the whole of government, the executive arm of government, should it centralize its communication?
Chair, that's a very good question. The draft policy is highlighting that we should consider consolidating our media arms, our state-owned media arms, for dissemination, better coordination of dissemination. So we have a couple of state-owned arms, and there could be a better way in which we coordinate government information. One of the reasons being that When we say media development, we are saying that media should be a tool for development because we are a developing nation. In a more advanced and matured economy, it could be used as a fourth estate for balance and check. But in a development economy, every stakeholder should work together to develop the country. That includes the media. And it's not just in keeping government in check, but it's to also inform on development agenda. And we see that that coordination may be failing within government in terms of coordination. So the best option is that maybe instead of centralizing, there could be an option, and that's been done before, when the department was actually subsumed, of ICT was subsumed under the Prime Minister's department. And then later it was taken back out. This was in the 90s, I believe, the department we're in. So we believe that, and the policy position we've taken is that we should consolidate or at least have some coordination mechanism on government dissemination, not necessarily centralization, but coordination on how government information is pushed out.
Thank you. Now the current regime in the government communication it's decentralized. So, do you think it has the potential of being abused in terms of misinformation and disinformation?
Yes, if there's no standards around which government disseminates its information, yes. Our policy proposed for a government media advisory committee where they can look at high-level issues pertaining to government and coordinate those high-level. For example, if government has a very big policy matter, whether it's relating to Connect PNG or relating to other initiatives, there needs to be a coordinated approach across all agencies in how, in which, to which we are disseminating. Because, for example, Connect PNG, as an prime example, is implemented by multiple agencies, not just one or two. So you must have the same messaging strategy across all agencies. And there must be some coordination amongst all the PR officers. And in combating misinformation, you must have a coordinated manner as well.
Thank you, Secretary. Just final question from me. You mentioned about qualified right for media freedom. Can you elaborate on that?
Maybe sorry, Chair, I don't have I wish I brought my legal here with me because they'll explain it in a better way. But I think in terms of qualified right, we're saying it's not a full right where every citizen can demand it. It's not an inherent right. Qualified right means that, from my humble view, that there could be some qualifying conditions put in place for you to have that right. And this is where we say that we can put, if you look at Malaysia and other countries where we've looked at, they've put some conditions in place for that right to be exercised.
You mentioned Malaysia. Is Malaysia one of the Commonwealth countries?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So in terms of your definition of qualified rights, do you think journalists have that qualified right? A part of that group of qualified rights?
At the moment, from a government perspective, government has not put any qualifications, criteria around it. So, and whether that needs to, some qualifications need to be put in place. But because it's self-regulatory in nature, I think the National Media Council are best, in a better position to answer some of these questions on the qualifications around media professionals.
So you mentioned about media councils, or like, is there a government policy or initiative to create the media council, or they created it themselves?
They created, I think it's within the media, so that's self-initiated, if I may say.
Okay. Final question before the Deputy Chair asks his question. Can you comment on media freedom in this country? Are journalists, our citizens, being suppressed to express, report on news? Or is there media freedom in this country? Because we are dropping from some, maybe from 50 to 90 now. So that tells us that there's some sort of blockades or impediments to media in this country. In the current regime, do we have media freedom?
Chairman, our national survey from last year indicated that there is a fear factor, and media professionals do feel that they are not safe. And I should also add on top of that that, again, there are no legal mechanisms in place to protect our professional. And this is where we are trying to come in from the policy again to say that there needs to be some mechanism where they can be protected when in the course of what they're reporting.
So you mean to say that we have no regulation, legislation, policy to restrict the freedom of media, but it's just the fear of the restriction that, or fear that is restricting them to be free.
I think I cannot speak on what I would assume that it's they're fearful on what they're reporting, but the survey just indicates that there is a fear factor around by professionals. There's a fear by professionals, and it also further highlighted that they would like some mechanisms in place to help protect their profession and themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think my question will be the final one if the chairman allows it. Just one concern here regarding like from now till the 28th of this month. 28th is the parliament session, so from now till 28th, we expect, and we also saw some of the spring doctors popping up from the caves, coming out and causing a lot of inconvenience for the public. And I just want to know if there's a mechanism in place, or what are you guys doing about it when you see some information that bullying in nature and like personal attacks and all that on senior officials or parliamentarians, or maybe on each other as citizens of this country. Like, is there any mechanism where you can filter out those stuff, or maybe verify the source, or check the victim that they are harming or something? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. As we all know, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation circulating. Coincidentally, when it approaches Parliament session, when it approaches certain milestone events, whether government or non-government, there seems to be a pattern of growth in misinformation. And we're finding that most of the misinformation now is propagated on WhatsApp. We were looking at the Indian model, because they're able to track, compel Meta to provide metadata on the original source of the original number that disseminated the misinformation. Because the idea is that we're trying to zone down to who has propagated that misinformation. For that to happen, we're going to need some kind of social media legislation as well, and so we can hold those who are misinforming accountable. And some, it's not misinformation but disinformation, meaning that they're intentionally doing it for damage, and like nobody wants that. No good person wants that, at least. Deputy Chair, I hope I've answered a bit of your question, and if you require further clarification, I can speak more.
Thank you. That's clear. But what about those fake profiles and all those fake numbers? It's obvious you can see them. Are you doing anything about removing them, or just reporting them or something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So under our Digital Government Act, our current remit is focused on fake government accounts only. So from there, when we see that it's fake, we have a direct communication with Meta. They've also built a backend platform for us to log in directly and report on any account that is fake, and they take it down within the hour. For the regular citizen, we do get cases of that, but we've offered space for the cybercrime unit in our department actually, so we could try to work together. And we usually refer anything that's criminal in nature to the police. We've attempted on multiple occasions to obtain the personal information of a personal account, so we can see, the phone number and a few other, details, so we can track. For that requires under the mutual assistance arrangement with Papua New Guinea and the U.S. government, the justice, our Justice Department would write across to the counterpart in the U.S. and require Facebook to compel them to provide the data. Our track record right now is that it's not working. And I've checked with other countries, they also complain that it doesn't work at all, because the request goes to the justice in the US and they just do nothing about it. So we've contacted Meta a lot of times and they refer us to that process. And so I would say that's not working. We've tried other legal means to do it, and but again, I should just highlight that our mandate of the department is only strictly on within the remit of the Digital Government Act. So we are reluctant to go any further in terms of enforcement and investigation practices.
Thank you, Chairman. One last one. Secretary, you mentioned about the ethics and the professional standards that we need to maintain. And one such modality is the training aspect. My question is in relation to if your department has any intervention with the institutions who are providing these trainings, especially through the Office of the Higher Education. If you are having a discussion on how best you can improve on those standards, and if there's any intervention to also seek government support in that forum as well.
Thank you very much. We've written once to the Department of Higher Education on this priority, but we ultimately will need a policy endorsed to be able to justify any budget requests.
Yeah, regarding order trading, what a key area you would expect, especially in the guidance of training students in institutions in universities, what would be the key focus area you would expect they can provide in the institutions to media students? Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'm not a professional in say media, but I think our priority at the moment, beside the technical training, is the values and ethics. So if we can instill good values right from the beginning, it will be used for good and used for, ideally as a government, we want media to be a partner in development as a developing country. So we would like them disseminating development information, policy implementation work that's happening. A lot of good policy work we see it's not being pushed out. Only the stuff that people maybe love to read, it's being pushed out. But a lot of very good policy work within health, education department, and other organizations. Very good, genuine work. It doesn't. People are not seeing, not reading about it.
Just because those stories don't sell, they publish those stories that sell. So that's one part, that's your responsibility to push it out. So that's what I mentioned about government communication to be in place to push these stories out. If it's not in place, as a policy department, that is your responsibility to make sure that it is being pushed out. One final question from me: is cyber crime unit under the ICT or it's a separate entity?
Chair, the cyber crime unit is under the police, so we only have cyber security, which is, as you are aware, it's just the protection of digital infrastructures and data.
Thank you. I think we have no further questions. If there is any questions coming up, we'll be writing directly to you to ask for submission. But we are looking forward to receive your submission in written format, including the survey that you conducted. Any final comment?
Thank you, Chair. No further comment, but we just want to say thank you for your time, and we will submit. Thank you, members, Chair, Deputy Chair, and members. We will submit in due course comprehensive report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jubla can go. Our next organization department is online, is Office of Censorship. Mr. Jim Abani and his team, the Chief Censor. Please take your seat, and committee members, if anyone wishes to go first on this one. We can let them to give a brief background, and then we can, they maybe introduce themselves and give the big background, and then we can proceed with the questions. Mr. Abani, you are the only, you came alone.
That's right, Chairperson. Actually, my team are going through some review on our amendments today, so it's something that I decided to take on board myself. And we made a mistake that we were thinking that it was going to be tomorrow, so unfortunately, it's today, so I decided to come myself.
Thank you. Thank you for showing respect to this committee and make yourself present. I'll give you an opportunity. If you have a written submission, you can submit. And we also would like to hear from you, your comment with regard to the terms of reference that we sent as an opening statement.
All right. Thank you, Chairman, Deputy Chairman, and members of the committee. I also want to extend this gratitude to all our members who are here from the media fraternity and other stakeholders who are here. My name is Jim Abani. I'm the Chief Censor of the Censorship Office of Papua New Guinea. Office of Censorship, under the Classification of Publication Censorship Act, it has two entities who are established. One is the administrative arm of the Censorship Board, and we also have the Censorship Board that is composition of other stakeholders, including media also. I can see one of the nominees with us, Mr. Choi, is in the board. So you can see the media also as it's represented into the board. So the Office of Censorship has been existing for the last 33 years. Basically, the law allows us to classify films and publications that are coming from overseas or produced within the country. So it has to be classified and given approval for public consumption, depending on the classification ratings and what is suitable for our public in general in the country. So just a brief of the Censorship Office. It's for the last 33 years, it has been existing. Thank you. And under the Ministry for Community Development.
Honorable Jason Peter, we report direct to him.
Thank you. Begin the questions. You mentioned your classifications of the content is on print and film. Am I right? Videos coming in,
Yes, right.
tapes. What about now we have moved into the digital age? Is your current legislation or classification relevant to the current age or stage we are in?
Thank you, Chair. The Classification of Publication Censorship Act was developed when there was no internet, no Facebook, thinking that there won't be any changes in technology. However, the Act is now not applicable. As a result of that, for the last 2 years, we have gone through the review process, and now we are considering in the inclusions of the other technological changes that are happening, particularly social media is one of those that we are now proposing in the new amendment bill that we are now proposing for it.
Mr. Abani, do you know when internet came into PNG?
Internet came into PNG, it could be 1990s, in 1990s, 97 or around that time.
So when did the censorship office operate? How long ago? Was it before the internet or after the internet?
It was before the internet. The internet just came recently. 1999, the act was enacted. And after a few years, the internet, television, and other modern of communication has come into the country.
So it took censorship office about 20 years, 24 years if it is in 1999, to come up with an amendment or classification of digital content. Is that correct?
Correct, Chairman. As has come to a stage where we've seen that we need to make some changes in terms of our amendment. So, being a chairman, this is my 4th year as a chief censor, and that is one of my priorities to get the act reviewed and amended. So that we are taking on board now.
So who's the composition of the censorship board? Who makes up the censorship board?
The composition of the censorship board from various sectors, PNG Church of Councils, media, Justice Department, 2 reps from the women, National Council of Women, National Youth Services, Education Department, National Cultural Commission, and Health Department. So it's around 11 board members.
I'm not hearing any board members from the internet space.
Yes,
Like
that's,
the one responsible for digital information, digital, our Department of ICT, NICTA, cybercrime. I'm not, their names are they're not part of your composition, am I correct?
that's right.
Why is that so?
Our censorship law was arrived from the moral censorship. That's particularly 4 types of censorship in the world that we have, and it was developed on moral censorship, and that's why the board has never thought of. I mean, the law never thought of having the media space, but that's something that we have been talking over time to include if there's any thing that we see importance to it.
Thank you, Secretary. We are FADA committee members.
Thank you, Chief Censor, Mr. Jim Abani. Thank you. Just one question I picked up from your statement. I'm just curious, what kind of act is your department relying on at the moment? Is it the one that was mentioned by the other team earlier, or?
The censorship operates operates under the classification of Censorship Act, which we are mandated to carry out our function. So we have a separate act. That,
what year was that?
1989.
So there was no amendment or any update on that?
There was no amendment was done, just on the regulations that were done for the something that we thought its importance for the country.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abani, for taking time to be a witness here. Just a couple of questions. You mentioned about the Censorship Act 1999. 89 or 99?
89.
89. Under Section 33, does the censorship have any standards for publications and broadcasting?
Thank you, Mr. Morris. We have the standards or the guidelines. We call it guidelines. Has been developed for the films and publications. That's the only standards or guidelines that we have.
So it doesn't regulate news content for misinformation or disinformation?
No. Misinformation and disinformation, we can see now the technology has evolved, and something that we are now proposing, and we in a new proposed bill, we are now developing some guidelines or standards, and that is one of them that we're just going through.
You mentioned when the censorship board was established, it was based on more moral censorship. Like Chairman has mentioned, times have changed, and being in this era and age and time, what other moralities are there that you plan to move into apart from that aspect?
We all know that PNG is a Christian country, and we continue to maintain as an independent agency or an independent body to ensure that the moral censorship is always applied at all times. We can see a lot of breakdown on moral issues nowadays, and we ask ourselves why this happening. Is that the influences from the Western influences is causing that, or because of the technological changes that are happening? So we have to be very mindful about where we're going to sift. We see moral censorship in the country is good because of the values and the standards, the traditional norms and decency that we have in the country. So we continue to advocate on moral values to uphold at all times, and not forgetting upholding Christian principles.
Yeah, Mr. Abani, I agree with you. I think a lot of problems and issues we face in the country today are moral-based, and a lot of decay in society to do with attitudes. Just a frank question: what kind of support, or are you getting a good support from the department in terms of you doing your job as a chief censor? Or would you like to see more support to your board and the work that you do? Are you getting that support? from government?
Yeah, Mr. Morris, we have now, as part of the changes that are involving in the censorship office, we have shifted our function alone from the community development ministry in terms of having our functions like human resource, finance directly to be sent to censorship office for its operational matters. But on the funding and other capacity buildings that we have, especially the resource support that we have, it's very very limited, and we want to see the government must see the censorship office as part of the very important organizations that it plays its role like any other organizations that are operating in the country. So it's about the, we have to have a good moral standards in our community in order to have better homes in our settlers. So that's on the funding issues. It's very minimal and not that much.
Thank you.
Regards to training of especially the new media reporters and students coming up in universities, institutions. Once again, what would be your advice, especially in the area or recommendations for you to recommend to the institutions, universities to, put inputs towards upcoming media students who will be exposed to the field of reporting and giving information to the public, especially in Papua New Guinea?
Thank you. I see journalists coming out from the institutions. They are the gatekeepers of information, and they inform or educate the general public about what's happening in and around. The journalists, I want to see that the pillars of this within the journalists, they must impart or mentor them so that when they are developing stories or writing stories, they have to ensure that the balance in terms of balance reporting is very important. Sometimes they don't consult another agency or the departmental head. They just go ahead with listening to one side of it, and then they just run the story. So I would encourage the young journalists to ensure that the balance reporting is very important in terms of for public to know each agency or a government or a minister is doing at his electorate.
Mainly, especially media, a lot of it is more focused towards making money or economic areas that they want to sensationalize the information to for the people to buy newspapers that being on the market. What would be your advice on that area of especially over sensationalize the information message that goes to the public for consumption?
Being a censor of the country, a chief censor of the country, my concern is on content, what comes out in any form of publication. I believe it has its own process when it goes for media to come out, either it's print or radio or for that matter television. And I would see that the sub-editors or editors must be responsible of what goes out for public consumption, and that is the concern as a censor. Sometimes what content that goes out is also harmful to public consumption and what they see, because we know that Papua New Guinea is made out of 800 plus languages, and we have our own cultures and values. So therefore, sometimes a person may see what goes out in the print or the television, the images, and they say that it's not helpful for them because it's harming them. So I would ask, the editors or sub-editors to be more responsible before it goes out for public consumption. And I can give, just for your note, some years ago, one of the print media was sold out. I mean, that newspaper was sold out before 7 o'clock because a picture of a woman was put at the back during the sports, and then the photographer was summoned to censorship office for us to ask him a question: was there any other pictures that you took during the sporting time? Or that's the only picture that you took. So, these are things that I would ask the sub-editors and editors to be more responsible on the content that they produce.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just to add, going back to the Act, it's from 1989. I think at that time, I'm not at mobile phone. No, we are still developing, but at that time, there were no mobile phones, computers. And I believe some of the parts of this, maybe most, or if not all, doesn't cover anything to do with mobile phones or internet, basically. So how is your department coping with the change in technology now, where you have internet now? Do you have any, how's the transition doing? Is it, are you guys in that level of social media where you censor out certain things? Or you, basically, I know that it's not covered in this Act. You are just doing what's right. But again, this Act needs to be amended to cater for the technology that we have now. Yeah, what are you currently doing in this space now of the technological age? Thank you. Like example, we have AI now, where someone can get someone's face and put it in another man's body or something, So these are the kind of things we are looking at. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a national censorship policy too that calls for partnership. And our strategic number 1, it calls for one of the key priority areas is calling for partnership. And I am pleased to inform the committee that we have developed that partnership with our stakeholders like DICT, NICTA, that we want to see some areas that we fall short, they can complement what we are doing. So it's all about harmonizing our legislations and our policies together to see what we can do for the country. So the policy calls for partnership, and we rely on our stakeholders to come in while we are now currently amending the Act. And I believe that will bring some light to some of those challenges that we are facing at the moment.
So, Chairman, just a follow-up question from committee and Deputy Chairman. From the previous presentation, our friends have taken 2 years to come up with a review on the Publications and Print Act. with CLRC. So with your review, are we looking at another 2-3 years for that, or what could be possibly the holdup in these reviews?
Thank you. We are at the final stages now. The drafting instructions has been already prepared, and we are just looking at some of those areas that, for instance, on regulations that we want to include. And we completed our one-on-one consultation with our stakeholders, particularly DICT and NICTA. So currently the team are completing, we are aiming for June, but if it does not come around June, then we can see afterwards. Yeah. But we hope to complete this year.
Thank you, Secretary. I think, sorry, Chief Censor Officer. You mentioned about morality, so that's the responsibility for your office to regulate morality. Okay, it's good that because we don't have the current legislative to go into the space of digital content, where I think the morality is very high in that space. Now, changes in law and policy takes time, but this morality is currently in existence and in huge magnitude. What are you doing? I know you. Can you elaborate on your partnership with the NICTA and the ICT in terms of space where you regulate morality on the internet right now, without the legislation, without the policies, just without them? Right now, what are you doing to regulate morality in partnership with NICTA and the ICT, especially in the digital space?
Thank you, Chairman. For moral issues, we all see it's happening everywhere. It's declining, and we ask ourselves why it's happening this. First of all, while waiting for our legislation to be, reviewed and amended, our work must go yet. Current practices that what we are doing is we are driving awareness to schools, informing the young population about the values and the standards that is now declining. And we try to bring them back so that they must know what is right and decency in terms of respect.
Sir, my question is related to they fail that awareness, discipline, whatever you have in school. What's your relationship or partnership with NICTA to stop pornography, let's say?
All right.
To go into mobile phone.
Yeah,
Are you talking with NICTA or DICT, because pornography is a morality issue?
Yeah.
Are you talking with NICTA or other organizations to address that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We had a joint submission last year. The NEC decision 265/23 that calls for 3 agencies to work together, and the censorship office was tasked to identify IP addresses, the websites, and provide to NICTA. So the work has started already, and you have seen probably last week and this week there's some news articles on what we are doing. So for the first 10 days, or not yet, 2 months of my internal committee within the censorship office as established, they've identified almost 33,000 sites. Out of 33,000 sites, 3,000 were they couldn't access or open that website because it has been denied by other countries who are also having, blocking such sites too. So 30,000. Out of 30,000, we have provided the first 1,000 IP addresses to NICTA to start implementing the any citizen. So the chief censor has to give direction to NICTA CEO to use our statutory powers within its respective agencies to ensure that this has to be implemented. So the work is ongoing now. While here I'm speaking, the officers are going through the sites to provide the next lot of 1,000 every 2 weeks to NICTA to see how they can implement.
Thank you, Censor Office. This is a very good report, update you give. So at least you are not waiting for legislative changes to happen. You are actually doing something as per your mandated role for morality, and you're doing so. That's very good to hear from your office. We encourage that you continue work with this department to, in terms of legislation and to control those content coming to our young minds. Chairman or any committee member, any questions? Okay, just your thoughts on media freedom. Do you think this country has media freedom as a censorship officer?
Thank you, Chairman. Media freedom has been here since the start of this country, and it's been a privilege for them because our constitution that gives them that freedom to have that media freedom. We, as a censor, I strongly believe in information to be disseminated to people. But what sort of information to be disseminated to the people is the concern as a census. Sometimes it can be harmful, sometimes it can be distress when people consume those information. But that freedom has been given, and I will call for the media to take stock of it and think about being more responsible. The word is, key word is responsible. We cannot say that it's a freedom, but we have to respect others, their rights too. When we are publishing, when we are telecasting, when we are broadcasting, because it infringes another person's right too when we use this word media freedom. It's good, but we have to be, the media industry have to be more responsible, on what goes out for public consumption. And that is, the key word is being responsible.
Thank you, Chief Censor Office. I think the committee has no further information, but we would appreciate submission from your end, especially in terms of media, digital media, so that we can be able to prepare our recommendations to the Parliament. Anything that that relates to the terms of reference that we as and the office can contribute, if you can provide a written submission to this inquiry before July. And actually we will come and ask you for the submission because your office plays a key role in terms of our country as a Christian country and your role as a regulator of morality. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and took note of all your comments.
Thank you. You can be excused now.
Thank you.
Okay, up next is Mr. Jason Karik, Department is, or agency is National Information Communication Technology, NICTA, and we are expecting the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Jackson Kariko and his team. Do you have them here? They are not here. This committee is representing the people of Papua New Guinea. If you are not listening to the people of Papua New Guinea, you will be summoned to come to this committee. And if you, based on the summon, you are not coming to this committee, you will be prosecuted by the people of Papua New Guinea. Any parliamentary committee represents the people of Papua New Guinea. And whatever role you play in this country, in the government departments, you are working for the people of Papua New Guinea. And we, the members of parliament in this committee, we represent the people of Papua New Guinea. The people of Papua New Guinea are asking you to come into inquiry, not me as a member of parliament, the people of Papua New Guinea. So whether you are a CEO or a secretary, when the people of Papua New Guinea want you to report to them, you have to report to them. So this is a warning to all the secretaries of department, head of government agencies, even to private organizations too. You work in this country, you report to the people of Papua New Guinea. Even the ministers too can be summoned. If you're not be able to make time to come to the committee hearing, we'll ask your minister to come to the committee hearing. Summon the minister to come to the committee hearing and ask him why is agency head is not coming into this committee hearing. This is how serious and important this parliamentary inquiry is. For so long it has been kept under the carpet, hidden, and the functions and powers of committees have not been exposed. We represent the people of Papua New Guinea. We are an independent arm of the people of Papua New Guinea. So we should be, every parliamentary committee should be respected. Agency heads should respect us and be present in the committee hearings. Thank you. So we are putting the NICTA acting CEO of NICTA on notice to be the first thing tomorrow. You must present and be the first person to question tomorrow. So I ask the media, this media freedom now. There is no restriction on the media freedom. You put it on the paper that the committee, Parliamentary Committee on Communication, summon the acting chief executive officer of NICTA to be present at 9 o'clock tomorrow in the committee meeting. Thank you. We go to the next person on the schedule. NBC. We invite the National Broadcasting Commission, the Managing Director, Mr. Kora, and his team if they are available. Thank you. Thank you, Nora. At least you lead by example. Huh? Thank you, NBC team. Mr. Managing Director, Mr. Kora, and your team. It will be good to give you the first opportunity to make your comment, especially introduce yourself, your role as National Broadcasting Corporation in terms of media. Our terms of reference has been sent to you. So maybe introduce your team and then you can make a verbal submission, and we expect a written submission also from you with relate to the terms of reference that we have identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, Deputy Chairman, and two board committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. If I can quickly introduce my team here. To my right, immediate right, is Mr. Michael Samuga, the acting Deputy Managing Director. Towards the far end is Mr. Bumbu Ketaki, the Executive Director for Television. To my left here, immediate left here, Mr. Douglas Dimagi is the Executive Director for National Radio. And to the far left, Mr. Maiva Lafanama, the Chief News Editor, representing his Executive Director, Lisa Pagelio. Executive Director News.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I think we have three agencies that report to the Minister for Information and Communications Technology. The first, the DICT had appeared first. They're the policy-oriented agency, followed by NICTA, who's the regulator, and NBC is the operator. So we are the three agencies that report to the Minister for ICT. We will limit our presentation to the terms of reference, particularly on misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. As the operator, but briefly on NBC, NBC came into being in 1st of December 1973 out of the ABC. Our existence is through the, and rightly the chairman said, we exist through the taxpayers of Papua New Guinea, and we report to Parliament through the Broadcasting Act 1973 as amended in 1995, and like the two other agencies that appeared before the committee, we also presently undertaking a major review of the Broadcasting Act, which we hope to, similar to the Censorship Board, have it before Parliament, Cabinet, and then Parliament by June, failing that. But one of our KPIs is to have this reviewed act by end of December 2024. We celebrated our 50th anniversary on 1st of December last year, and like for the terms of reference, we have two of the key agencies, divisions that are at the forefront of our news content, and that's National Radio and News, and they're the two primary divisions that handle our content, and they are also the ones that are responsible for anything untoward, especially misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. News does the hourly news radio bulletins every day, and then we have the nightly simulcast both on radio and television at 6, and then radio has its own major bulletin at 7, and then we have National Radio that does most of our content on other sectors of society throughout the day as well. So those are primarily our two major functions that are of interest to the committee, but doesn't stop it from going asking us questions on our other 5 divisions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, MD. We expect also a written submission from you, from NBC, as part of our recommendation to the Parliament. But members, please fire away.
Thank you. I'd like to go with the first question. thank you, NBC team, Mr. No and the team. I'm a very strong supporter of NBC back in Morobe province, just like my father. Thank you. The first, like you said, we want to keep in the boundary of the terms of reference that you received. So the first question is regarding to the misinformation and disinformation. Does NBC have any initiatives to help the government manage misinformation and disinformation? Thank you.
We the two-prong answers to the question. The first one is that we have experienced journalists in the newsroom, and we have our editorial, what we call the editorial policy and content guidelines that are in place. So our staff abide by those. So that's the first response to your question, is that that's how we help government, because the information that comes through to us either by press release or press conference or any other public event, our journalists are guided by that policy to how to treat the news, and also onus is on the PR officers that the information that's brought to us is relevant and truthful as much as possible. So in those two ways that we can easily help push out relevant information and news.
Thank you. I understand you guys in the way and even now in the radio broadcasting, and now you guys are have transitioned into the internet also, where we have the page where you go live on Facebook. How is it? How do you guys find yourselves in that platform? Is it challenging for you guys, or are there any challenges that you guys face from that radio to now? You have cameras and you have videos or live streams.
I think the technology is a bit manageable, and like I speak for NBC, but I think the rest of the media sitting here would also feel similar sentiments in terms of the mainstream media competing or up against the social media, who by the way we have gone on to online as well, but we are in so many ways still governed by our ethics and our I think NBC is one of those few, or if not the only one in the country and closer to the region, that has our own social media guidelines. So those are what's protecting us and guiding us in how we handle content online.
Thank you. This might be a little bit out, but I'm just concerned about the power outages that you guys usually face in each where you are based, especially like in Morobe. We have it up at town, where I basically, on behalf of my DDA, we gave a generator to your office. I understand that the radio broadcasting, it reaches the rural parts of this country. In Morobe, we go as far as Garaina, some places where the road doesn't reach, like other places in Morobe. With the power outages, how do you guys find it? Is it challenging?
Thank you for that question, and also your personal involvement in helping NBC as well. Power outage not only is restricted to NBC, not a challenge that only NBC has. I think other sectors have it as well. What we try to do is we're currently on primarily on FM, but because of the challenges we're having with power across the country, so we have ventured into reintroducing shortwave radio medium wave transmission, which gives us an opportunity to at least concentrate on power in the provincial capital, and still not reliable, fully reliable, but then we transmit from there. We are also now heavily looking deeply into reintroducing shortwave as well, and that's mostly driven by our challenges on power. So yes, it is a huge challenge, but for the benefit of our people, we have to find ways around the issues we have with power, because it also, as it is, it also limits our broadcast hours in the provincial stations as well, the power issue.
Thank you, MD. I have a couple of questions. You're a government entity, SOE, but you're also a media organization. So there's a couple of questions that I want to ask, and then I'll take a break, and my colleague will ask. Firstly, do you think media is free in this country?
Generally speaking, yes, media is free in the country. I'll make an example of how.
Sorry, I'll rephrase. Is there media freedom in this country?
There is media, Chairman, thank you. There is media freedom in the country. And like I said, I'll qualify that statement in terms of my personal experience in the government. I'm still in government, but I left the government department and have been heading the National Broadcasting Corporation, and not in one instance in my time at NBC now that I've got anybody in government calling me up and telling me, don't run this story, or you need to reconsider this story. So in that regard, with my personal experience in that regard, I'd say the media is relatively free in this country.
Do you support the statement by the Secretary for Department of ICT? We mentioned that the media industry is self-regulating. Is that true? Or do you support that idea?
It is self-regulating in terms of the media houses publish news as they see them. In that regard, yes.
All right. So because now that you are a first media organization to be interviewed, you are self-regulating. So what sort of, you have any entities in the other outside from the government sector, like council or association that establish the regulating framework, or is it within only your organization that you have that framework or policy to be in place? Who sets the regulating policy or framework or codes of conduct or ethics and all this? Your NBC, or there's a body outside of NBC? Or, because there's no body in government. So is there a body outside of government in this country that is doing that, or your own organization is doing that?
What we've done, Chairman, what we've done is we drew up the policy and had our NBC board formally endorse it, and that's that's under the ambit that we operate in.
So there's no NGO or council, media council, or anything setting the regulatory standard. It's your own board.
It's only for NBC, and it's how we guide our journalists and content makers in their everyday conduct.
Okay, that's good. All right. So who drafts that policy and all this? It's a newsroom, or your HR, or which department does you engage someone outside to do that?
No, we workshopped it through the senior management and down the line managers as well, but taking our cue from the current Broadcasting Act.
Okay.
And then had it endorsed by the board. So
your current Broadcasting Act is your guideline to come up with the policy.
Yes, Chairman.
So your policy, the internal policy that you have, is it also intervenes in terms of misinformation and disinformation and sensationalization of news?
As far as the reporting standards by journalists and other content makers, yes, they are fully aware of the standards and the requirements of the NBC and abide by that as well.
Do your journalists from time to time breach those policies? Do they instances of breaches of those internal policy?
There's been some breaches, but they haven't gone into double figures yet. It's just by last count 3 or 4.
What are you doing about that? What sort of penalty or what sort of disciplinary measures are you taking on those?
They go through the normal NBC disciplinary process, but so far that's not been too. They don't have been major enough to warrant termination, because that's the extreme of the policy. We have the policy in place, which also then outlines the process of the breach, and it goes through the normal disciplinary process of NBC.
Will you be able to define misinformation and disinformation, the separation of these two terms, the praise times, misinformation and disinformation?
One is deliberate, while the other is when you go out to deliberately mislead the public, while the other is just wrong.
Maybe you should ask a colleague to help you. Misinformation and disinformation, they are very important terminology in your industry. I expect you to give me a definition of this to praise. Misinformation and disinformation. Let me explain. Misinformation is when you unintentionally say information, unintentionally say wrong information. Disinformation is when you intentionally say wrong information. So that's the difference of misinformation and disinformation. All right. From your breaches that you said, your staff have a couple of breaches. Can you tell me, can you address which stats is disinformation and misinformation? Sorry, the terms of inquiries I sent out is basically including this. So since you're from a media organization, I expect this information to be said.
The one example would be disinformation, and it's reported in a court case where the reporter just assumed that that was what the judge said. So the company of aggrieved company wrote to NBC, highlighted that. So we sat down. Maivo is senior journalist, recently become a lawyer as well. So sat down with the lawyers, and then in all likelihood, some of them are easily resolved by issuing a public apology, and everybody moved on.
Okay, so that is disinformation. Do you think your policy should be updated? Because you're self-regulating. Do you think your policy should be updated to give confidence to the PNG citizens that if there is a disinformation from your news reporting, the reporter should be disciplined more severe than the misinformation?
It's currently under review as well. So we upgrade and update as we go along as well. But I take note of your question as well.
Thank you. Can you give a rundown of your process, news reporting process that you go through before you send the news out to the public? Maybe like some sort of steps. What sort of steps? And reporter comes and gives the story, or is there a process that you follow before it goes out to the public? This sort of Can you elaborate
Yes,
on that?
sorry, thank you, Chairman. There's certainly a process involved. Then generally, a reporter goes out, gets the news, comes back, sits with the sub-editor. Let me start. We have editorial meetings every morning. Reporters go out and get their stories, come back, do them, sit with the sub-editors, run through the story, goes to the editor, and then when it's cleared, it gets on the queue. So it follows a similar process for every story.
So the misinformation that comes from the courthouse, did it went through that process, or how did the editor miss that?
It went through that process because when the breach was reported to us, I summoned a whole lot of them to explain how it happened.
Okay.
And why it happened.
Thank you, MD. I have other questions, but I'll give time to my other colleague to ask your questions.
Okay, thank you, CEO, and all your directors and management who are here. Thank you for your time. I'll just ask a few questions that I asked earlier to Secretary with regards to the Global Press Freedom Index. From last year's results, Papua New Guinea has dropped out of the top tier and has fallen in terms of our ranking in media freedom. So we fell from a placing of 51 to 91, or the 91st. Would you know why this is so? Or any reasons of that, or do you have any indications why this has happened? For example, in Fiji, they improved from 89 to 44. The reason being that they removed the draconian law that was suppressing media freedom. And that is why they improved. So if we have media freedom, why would we drop in that sense?
Thank you for the question. I think just by reading from the findings of that the survey, one of the major reasons given was the proposed draft media development policy that the government's undertaking. So I think that gives us a cue for the department and other stakeholders to assess that and then take. I mean, if that's one of the reasons been given by Journalists Without Borders, then that's one issue that the government and the department particularly to have a look at it and see where we can improve on. And I also take the reasons given for Fiji's jump up the scale as well.
Yeah, thank you, Secretary. Sorry, CEO, the other, during the Secretary's statements, he mentioned that journalists don't feel safe, and there is a fear factor as well. As the head of your organization, would you know why journalists have that fear? Is it fear of being imprisoned for reporting, or what is that fear?
I wouldn't speak. I wouldn't speak for the other media. For NBC, I'm only aware of two fear factors, and that was mostly physical fear. And then it was I mean, I had one of my reporters she got caught up in a crossfire, and another one that got attacked while traveling back to Port Moresby. So if there's any, I'm not aware of any in the newsroom, but those are the only two issues that I'm aware of at the embassy, talking of fear.
Thank
Thank you, NBC. would like to take this opportunity to thank you for the service that you provide to the nation of Papua New Guinea. I think you are across the country. You give the service to the provinces or citizens of this country so much before until now. I think I thank you. Take this opportunity as a committee, a member of this Parliament. Thank you for disseminating information and to the public what citizens need to know through the radio. I think that's been there. Now we have modern technology, and it has been to other areas are more important or vital today. But the NBC has been there for quite some time until now, and thank you so much for the service that provide through the NBC to the especially rural areas in Papua New Guinea. Okay, thank you so much. One question, what are the challenges do you face that need to be upgraded in your work of NBC, the better disseminating of information to the citizens of Papua New Guinea? Thank you.
We thank you for the question. One of our major challenges is to reach as many people as we can. We get told by our international friends that, or we get told by people that radio is on the way out, but particularly for PNG and the Pacific region, is still relevant. So those are the challenges that we have to find means around. One of the challenges we had with PNG Power and the technologies that we have, but try to reach out people. So that's one of the major challenges in trying to reach out people and to maintain the presence there. In terms of content, I think we could do a lot more with government pushing out information to our people. Not so much political, that has its own space, but more development information that government departments can push out to us to further push to the people. Those are two of the primary challenges that we have.
What's your relationship between the media communities, organizations within the country? What's your relationship with them, especially with the media groups, especially coming to you? We are the last one to, to disseminate into the public, in the space, airways.
You mean the appreciation of NBC or otherwise?
Yes, connection with them. Yeah.
Let me give an thank you, member. I'll give an example of some law and order issues that happened in Mendi, and we had people physically stand in front of NBC and say, "You won't touch our NBC." So I think, generally speaking, across the country, there's better appreciation for NBC, but that also gives us reason to try to improve on our efforts as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just one question regarding the fear factor that my colleague has mentioned just not long ago. Investigative journalism is a problem in Papua New Guinea. Do you, NBC, practice investigative journalism?
Thank you for the pertinent question. We have amongst us in the National Newsroom one of our senior journalists, if she's not here, who graduated with, who got an award from, is it the US? UK. So she's the one who's pushing forward with investigative journalism, but it's not an excuse. But in terms of, and I think other newsrooms would be feeling the same as well. While we encourage that, it means that we have to dedicate a lot more resources to those group of people to continue to get their stories behind the rest of away from the rest of the journalists who do daily news. So while we encourage it, we also appreciate that we need to put in a lot more resources in terms of money and travel and for these people to really do their stories better.
Thank you. I think there are a lot of serious topics or issues that needs this kind of specialty. Talking about investigative journalism, do you think the government should put in a separate security force to provide security to this type of investigations, reporting? Sorry.
In terms of security, physical security protection, I would recommend that we put in other protection, and some of them have been alluded to by Secretary.
Private or government security?
No, sorry, I'm talking in terms security in terms of legislation, giving them legislative protection to do their work, not so much physical protection. So, I mean, wouldn't request a bodyguard, but if the person or the group can be given legislative and other administrative protection to do their job well, and also, like I said, about resources as well.
Thank you. I understand where you're coming from, but my point is, if things get a little bit out of hand or serious, do you see yourself requiring help from the government or separate body to come and assist?
Oh, thank you. I get your question. What we practice at NBC is every time there's physical danger to the journalist, our first call is to safety first. We get the journalist out or the reporter out or the NBC staff out, and then we venture into other areas to protect or to address the issue. But I didn't think that far to your question as well, but we had an issue with the UPNG when it got a bit rowdy, so we enlisted the help of police to get one of our staff out.
Thank you. But my point is investigative journalism is not like any other investigation reporting. Sometimes it can, you focus on a single topic and you dig deep and you find the cause of it. And then sometimes it turns around and bite you back, especially the reporters. So do you think the government should step in and help the industry by creating an entity or something in place to help the journalists to do their work?
Any measure to give safer space for the investigative journalists to work, by all means.
Okay, thank you, MD. My question will be I have a couple of questions, and but quickly based from your response to my other colleagues' question regarding in terms of fear. So you mentioned two journalists. They were attacking or something back from the trips. Was it regarding for the news they're reporting on, or is it for other purposes?
No,
other reasons?
I think these were just isolated. I hope they were isolated cases when one group was traveling back and then they got attacked by hooligans.
Not related to any newspaper?
Not related to that. And another one was just a group of journalists at Rona when they were caught in a crossfire between two wearing groups, and nothing to do with the reporting either.
Do your journalists face any threats, intimidation, and abuse from other, like outside of, when they publish the news, related to the news? Do they face any threat, abuse, intimidation, and from the public?
Thank you. Being directly conveyed to me, no. I honestly haven't been told, but if there's any that they would fear either reporting to me or the senior colleagues here, not that I'm aware of, but that wouldn't even be discounted. So, I mean, we live in an area where the media is always highlighting issues, so those we will be naive to just say, no, it doesn't happen at NBC or any other newsroom.
Do you think that that prescribed fear affects media freedom? Assumed fear.
It could. I mean, we, at the end of the day, journalists are human beings as well. So, if that happens, they are encouraged by our newsrooms that they talk to their senior colleagues as well in how to handle news as well. So, it could be there, but like I'm saying, nothing formal or informal has come to me that I can share with the committee here at this stage.
What about your staff? Would they? I mean, from this bench, from this chair, as part of your written submissions, I want you to inquire journalists to also provide instances where you were threatened or abused by any news article you provide, so that we can have some evidence. Because the idea is to have media freedom. I mean, there is no government regulation, policies, legislation restricting media freedom. So the restriction of media freedom is not coming from the government, because media is self-regulating. So we want to also know if from the public, from the citizens, if they are restricting media freedom. So if there is any instances of journalism being threatened, abused by the reports your journalists face, we would like to also receive submission in the form of evidence to this committee. Would you be able to provide it?
Thank you. We'll do that, and we welcome the committee's interest in that regard as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. My other question is related to journalism. You've been in the industry for so long, and maybe you passed through the School of Journalism itself, and then you worked in the government space, and then now you are in NBC. You have so many years of experience of journalism in this country. Now, what's your view of the standards of journalism based on your education? I mean, when you graduated from the uni experience and from your time and now, has the standard improved, or it's not improving, or it's at the middle?
Thank you.
But you can just the generation, so you can.
Yeah, thank you for that important question. I think to answer that question, I'd go back to the School of Journalism. Sorry, Emily's here, but the School of Journalism at UPNG. During our time, we were put through the hard yards of ethics, how to write good stories, and all that stuff. And principally because the investment was there, the lecturers were there, and the equipment was there as well. As late as earlier this month, we went for the Press Freedom Day. Emily and her group are really struggling to attract, even from the school itself and outside, to get help. Why I'm saying this is, what we get from there is what we have reflected in the newsrooms. We get 30 or 40 journalism students for vacation employment every year, and it's just a sorry state of products we have. So, and that now reflects in our everyday newsroom, where the senior reporters are forced to retrain or train up some of the students coming out from the school. So I sadly agree that it's dropped, but it's no fault of the the kids coming through. It's just the system that we have, and that's one area that if we need to intervene, then we go back to the schools and help out in that regard.
Is there a professional journalism organization that NBC staff are part of? Journalists are part of?
Not there's one that existed earlier, but I think more Neville and others are here to correct me. No, not in a formal setting, but we did get together and address these issues. But with these kind of issues coming to the fore in terms of the fear the committee is talking about and the lack of proper training they're getting, and the treatment everybody gets on social media, we are not excluded. So those are the issues that should compel us to really properly organize ourselves and improve the industry. That's my view.
So, how many journalism schools that gives out journalism degree in this country?
Formally, there's two. That's Divine Word and UPNG, and I'm aware of some semblance of a communication school at the University of Goroka, but the two formal ones are UPNG and Divine Word.
So, does UPNC gives out a journalism degree nowadays?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, we go back to self-regulation. Now, I believe you represent PNC in terms of Pacific News Association or some sort of association. Can you elaborate on that?
I am currently the president of the Pacific Island News Association. It's a grouping of mostly Pacific journalists outside Australia and New Zealand.
How do you get selected?
Like this coming September, we'll get to Niue and we have an AGM and then we have a general election when we get that.
So in terms of in this country, how do they, because you say there's no proportional organization, so how does the Pacific body see PNG, gets to PNG? They directly connect to its media organization, or how do they?
We are members of, financial members of PINA, the Pacific Island News Association, so it's in that grouping that we get these kind of appointments and also training and capacity building opportunities.
When you become members of PINA, is it journalists or organization of like your organization become the member or the individual journalists become the members?
As it is now, it's mostly the organizations.
Okay, like Post-Korea.
Post-Korea.
Okay, or very good. Okay, that organization, does it contribute to the global standard news ranking or?
No, I don't think so. It's done by the Journalists Without Borders grouping, but it won't be far-fetched if they get they call up countries and ask them of the country status as well, or news organizations within those countries to get there.
Like your news organization body. Yeah. So now we have a ranking. PNG, we don't have a government regulation. That media development policy has not been passed, has not been coming to the parliament, is not gazetted. So are we going to bring that information to this body as the representative of this, as a representative from your country in that body? Because you just mentioned that there's freedom of media in this country, but we dropped from the rank. So I want to see if how being a member to that Pacific body would be able to pass that information to those guys doing the ranking. My question is clear. Like we say that you mentioned that because of the story that they're developing a media media development policy that dropped our ranking. But in this country, when a policy in draft format, it's not implemented. It's only when it's passed through proper channel, then it becomes gazetted. So, as per your own admission, there is freedom of media in this country. Now that you are a member of the Pacific Media Association, will you present to that body, to present to that Media Without Borders that there is media freedom in this country?
I certainly can, and I mean, there's nothing also stopping the department as the policy body to make a representation or even the PNG Media Council. It's just the perception of the media, how the media works in each country. And they've got their own guidelines and how they, or criteria in how they use to rank each country. And like I said, one of the issues they took with PNG as a reason for PNG dropping was the draft media policy, the development policy. So it's just the perception of what journalists with borders are thinking, and it's not the whole reflection of the media situation in PNG or any other country for that matter.
Okay, I think we should take note of this, and the Department of ICT should be able to dig deeper into this ranking and provide a way forward on how we can address that ranking. I think Parliamentary Secretary, take note of that so we can ask their submission to that matter so we can address that ranking issues. Okay. Just one, the other areas of questioning is related to your role as you're owned by the government. So what are you doing? How do you see the content of government being channeled to NBC? Is it enough? Are you getting enough content from the government? Are you communicating? Are they communicating well with you to channel the information like news or development news to your NBC, or are you restricting them? You know, what's happening between you and the government, PR or media officers?
Thank you, Chairman. Now, that was one of our last remarks to express to the committee. There's no restrictions on government departments and agencies to come to NBC, and in fact, we've been encouraging that. The closest we got to a very sustained promotion of government, I mean particularly government information and not so much political information, is we had the government talkback show going, and that ran for quite a while and ran successfully. So those are the ones we encourage to come on board, because most of our programs are virtually free, and like I said in one of my earlier remarks, the onus is on government public relations officers and media workers to continue. Some do come to NBC, but that's only a select few. Just need to come to NBC more often, and we work together on pushing out government information. Chairman, simple factors like what's the role of the Department of Justice and Attorney General? Just by giving information out to our people, we'll just give them enough. Oh, look, there's free legal representation we can get from there instead of going to private lawyers. So those are the kind of information I'm talking about, that we can all work together. Government departments and agencies should work with NBC, not NBC alone. I understand MTV is under telecom as well. Those are the avenues that we can use to promote a lot more of government policies and initiatives going forward. We stand ready to do that kind of stuff as well.
Okay. Do you think there should be one source of like a central area in the government, like government severite? What's happening? Do you know what's happening to it now?
Government civil right isn't in publication anymore because I think, like Secretary said, they had earlier bills with the printers to pay, and I think that's one of the reasons why they folded.
Do you think there should be a central source of information from the government, especially development news, not political, but development news should be there so you can easily go and get information from there and publish to the people public? Or is there currently one such organization in government providing that information?
Chairman, I would recommend that we start up slow in terms of we already have government public relations and media officers there, and Secretary said, and I to a large degree agree with him, we coordinate a lot more better. We coordinate more effectively and just get them to come to, like, example, NBC more regularly to give us the information, and then down the line we can consider whether that's working fine, or we can or see if that's working fine, or consider getting a coordinating mechanism in place either underneath the Department of ICT or some other makeup that we coordinate all those or churn out all those government information out.
So who's doing the coordination now?
I don't think that's done in a more coordinated way. I think it's all the more effective PR people do it more effectively than others. So it's those who are more media savvy talk to the mainstream media and talk to us as well in how to get the information out. But I don't think it's done in a more coordinated way at the moment.
So you mentioned has it been more coordinated in the former years while you were in the government? I mean, working with the government.
When I was with the PMs, I think the government Sivara was going out fine, and the talkback was going fine as well. So those were the two I recall going out more regularly, as well as the coordination with the mainstream media as well.
So which department were they under? The government is Sivara and the talkback. So who was coordinating?
Predecessor to the ICT.
Okay, which one?
Both were coordinated by the department.
Department.
Yeah.
So the legislation changed and they left the coordination, or what happened and they left the coordination? Would you have some idea?
No, I think it's more just changing priorities, or it just I'm not aware of why they changed.
Okay. Now the priorities, the new structure and all this in place. Which department should you think should be coordinating this? The Prime Minister's department or the Department of ICT? I'm just giving two departments. Which is the most appropriate department?
I think it will be the ICT because you can have political connotations if you leave it with the PM's department. Although I know there's the PM's media unit there, but I think it will be more neutral, a bit more neutral if it's left with the Department of ICT.
But shouldn't it be government policy, and the PM's department should be driving? It's coordinating the central. I understand all the department is coordinating the central government machinery in terms of giving out information to the public. Should the PM's department be coordinating any not political? We're not talking about political. We're talking about development. Should the PM's department, media unit in the PM's department, coordinating dissemination of development issues to media organizations?
Sorry, I'll qualify myself. I'm speaking from my own experience in how it works. But I see your point. But I would imagine. I mean, even if it's the PM's media unit and the department, it will still work. It's people who can make the systems work. We have good systems. People who should make them work. But if I was asked which department it would be, I would still recommend the ICT because that's what it is, Department of Information and Communication Technology.
Okay, thank you. I think I have no further questions. Last question on terms of radio. I agree. I think we all agree that radio communication is most appropriate for PNG setting, and because we have a geographically challenged country, radio goes well to the villages. Can you maybe you mentioned already, but can you also tell me what you are doing in terms of because previously in the village we listen to radios, but now it's like really difficult to listen to radios. So what's happening?
Thank you. We listened to radio in the past because it was mostly shortwave, and shortwave got into disuse more than 20 years ago at NBC. So what we have right now, until 3 or 4 years ago, we only had FM. That's in the major provincial towns, and unless you have a line of sight or you have a relays, it extends. But otherwise, FM is limited within the town radius. So that's why we, in recent years, we've ventured into medium wave. And the idea of medium wave was to get four regional stations. That's Kokopo, Rabaul, Lei, Goroka, and Port Moresby Waigani here. So we get 10 kilowatt medium wave transmitters that broadcast the national radios that Douglas looks after. And the idea of trying to get 5 kilowatt medium wave transmitters for each provincial stations to broadcast in local. And we've got a report back from ABC and one or two other queries that we've made on the possible reintroduction of shortwave radio. The issue with shortwave radio is that we found the transmitters are still being manufactured, but it's the receivers that are no longer, most will notice from our radio car stereos that it stops with medium wave and no more SW. So that's one of the handicaps that we have with shortwave, is that we can put up the transmitter. It will bypass some of the issues with the power that we have, but who will listen to them in the provinces? So if we are to get the transmitters, we have to also consider asking the manufacturer to manufacture those as well. So that's the current exploration we're doing with radio.
Okay, that's really good, because due to climate change, and now we are facing disaster everywhere. So it's previously it's easy to coordinate disaster when you have a radio station. So there's a one point of contact where people can contact and disseminate information regarding disaster. Now that this particular means of communicating is out, it's really difficult to communicate in terms of coordinating disasters. So this committee would like to strongly urge you to look into that shortwave and make a submission to this committee on how the committee can help in progressing that shortwave submission, so we can at least coordinate our country is disaster prone and climate change and all this stuff. So not everywhere have mobile phones. So this is a very important. The committee recognized that this is a very important tool for communication. So it should be brought back into this country. Committee members, you have any more questions? Speak to the mic.
NBC bring out common information across the country. Now we are bombarded with individual form of communication, mobile and here and there. Sometimes it's not in uniform message goes across. But NBC brings out common information on a particular time in the news and other areas. it's an important from us. Would like to ask you any particular recommendations for you for more improvement on in your area of disseminating common message across the country that you think is an important. I think this is almost a similar chairman and ask for it, but I would like to ask any particular area that we need to really focus for the government to look at it for improvement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of, I think I hope I answered it somehow earlier. While we encourage, or sometimes because of the prevailing